for newspapers because I realized that the Northeast is known mostly for the wrong reasons to the world outside. It's such a rich place. It's full of music, full of culture, full of beauty. But all that the world outside knows about the Northeast is probably insurgency, violence, and they think that every kid here with a guitar and long hair is a drug addict, which is so very far from the truth. So we started something called the Northeast Data Bank. We started documenting the region and trying to project it to the world outside. So we started with the print media. We created a photo bank, but those days it was not digital. And so we have lost most of the data that we created during those years, because by the time digitization came, most Shillong, having one of the highest rainfall, used to have a lot of fungus growth in everything that you did. So we lost photographs. So the data bank was more or less gone. So what we did next was we started making documentaries, we started making films, and I became a documentary filmmaker, and that passion continues. So the Northeast Data Bank became the one-stop shop for anybody who wanted information on and about the Northeast, and that's what we did. I got involved in, even though I couldn't continue as Karma might have done with farming and all that, but I had 1 year of my life completely as a farmer. I was involved in the setting up of a hospital. I am involved with the Kasturba Gandhi Memorial Trust, which has a number of ashrams all over the country. I am looking after some of those in the Northeast. We have 22 of those. And in addition to all that, I teach, or I try and teach sustainability and liberal arts to students who come in for hard-nosed MBA courses in an IIM. I sometimes go to IMA and IMB, talk about the same things. In my free time, I work as a carpenter. I work as a mason. I do all kinds of stuff. But essentially what you're seeing in front of you is a crazy fellow who just dabbles in everything that catches his fancy. So that's about me. I don't know, Mukesh, is that the way we go about it? We give our introductions, or we talk something about what I think could be the challenges before this group that's here?
No, Sanjeeb, I think this is excellent because this gives the fellows a quick preview of your story, and that will come up in the Q&A session. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Karma, I am very impressed with your resume. I mean, not many people I have met or virtually met and shaken hands with have to their name that they've been in the Forbes list, that they have a patent. So, and your firm has been, your company was acquired. So you are the real entrepreneur. We teach entrepreneurship, you do entrepreneurship. So we are very pleased and kind of you to join us. So please, if you can just spend a few minutes like Sanjeeb in addressing the fellows, and then we'll take it into a Q&A session after that.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So my name is Karma. I'm actually originally from Sikkim. I've been in Bangalore for quite some time now. The company that basically got acquired by Holiday IQ and an Amazon funded company was in 2015. I ran that company, co-founded that company, ran it for about 11 years. Started in 2004, and we had some very marquee customers during that time: Apple, SAP, World Bank, etc. Because we're based out of the Valley, so we had pretty good leverage, and the other co-founders were pretty deep in the space within the Silicon Valley. So that is, we worked with very interesting people who were already starting, thinking out of the box. We were probably one of the first companies in India to have, or rather all of the world to have access into the iPhone, So we built the collaboration platform. It was a collaboration platform to speed up delivery of the iPhones. That is in 2007, which was launched in 2007, but the entire backend stuff had happened in 2006. And so we built the collaboration platform for Apple during those days in 2006. So that's about 14 years now. And so it won us a lot of accolades. We also had Dell as a customer. So Dell World, we did a lot of work for Dell World, like we did it for SAP. Got to meet Michael Dell, in Austin. It was, I think, in around, I don't know, 08, 09. So pretty interesting stuff. It was a services, boutique services company, sold it off. And we basically got it. It was acquired. And then got into other things. Basically, the entrepreneurial bug is such that you don't, you have to continue the process. You know, it's like in Buddhism we have this mandala system that you create this sand art, and it takes like a couple of days. They create, you know, especially in the Kala Chakra, that Kala Chakra initiation, which somebody like Dalai Lama gives. You build these intricate, colorful mandalas for about 2 to 3 days, and finally, the final prayer to that is they just kind of like the head priest or Dalai Lama, whoever is there in the initiation, he just comes and crosses it over and says, you know, it just, the beauty of that is the wisdom of impermanence, you know. So as an entrepreneur, so that is what we imbibe, especially I. And also the other thing is me being a member of IMI, which Golan, thank you. I'm a member of IMI, and I'm also part of the small team, the entrepreneurial cell that probably it will take roots, and probably we'll see it take some level of fruition towards especially, you know, encouraging entrepreneurs in the mountain states and the hill economy, which is more natural, more organic, more native. So within that space, yes, I'm here to share whatever I can, to have this conversation. Like I think Sanjeeb just said, the two stereotypes, which is basically long hair, and we are all not drug addicts, you know. So we'll really, so we can go ahead, have some question and answers, Q&A. All that FOBs and all of that, those are very small bumps around the road that where, you know, as an entrepreneur, probably if you do good work, people will kind of talk about and stuff like that. But I don't give too much credit to that. I'm right now more into trying to see the mountain economy, especially from policy perspective. If we can get hemp, kind of like what we've done with bamboo, if hemp can become one of the key cash crops. So that is probably a focus area for even within the IMI that I'm trying to push. We can have an entrepreneurial activity around that. I think Meghalaya, Uttarakhand is doing some amount of activity, but most of the activity happens either towards Odisha, Madhya Pradesh. There are companies like the Bombay Hemp Company that are pushing this agenda. India should be at the forefront. We have sadhus, are huge amount of, you know, I wouldn't, in a way, it's a lineage also of people using and making good utilization of, you know, hemp related products, etc. Is there in our culture, is there in this, our religion. And so I think hemp, apart from bamboo, hemp should be the next big thing for the entire Indian Himalayan region. I wouldn't go towards the Hindu Kush region because that is more opiate and opium based. So, but in our side, we can do hemp clothing, everything else. You know, Indian Himalayan region could be probably the one place where all of the activity around this particular plant can happen. And probably if we can see that over the next 10 years, reach leaps and bounds to be able to, like for example, in healthcare, therapeutics, you have clothing, fashion line, etc., etc. So that is probably something that I would be interested in. There is that on blockchain also. I'm on the tech side. I'm interested in machine learning and blockchain. I'm co-founder of a blockchain, rather a crypto asset startup based out of Taiwan. Right now we are at early stages. We probably will be listing in a month or so on one of the stock exchanges. In India, it's like a little iffy on the blockchain crypto asset space. So less said the better. But I am part of a crypto asset company. You can't say cryptocurrency because it's, then the government will have all its guns out. It's crypto asset company. So yes, I'm a co-founder there. So those are the areas. But now probably the next 10 years, I want to be able to dedicate some amount of time on kind of fostering entrepreneurship around a particular medium or a plant, especially in this space. Probably hemp is that one plant that I see having the potential.
Thank you. Thank you, Karma. Thank you very much. And it's an honor to meet two people who are so nice about their achievements and so humble, because seeing your resumes, I'm jealous. So look, we'll open the conversation up to the fellows. So shoot a question, raise your hand and ask a question, or put it in the chat box. We are monitoring that, and let's see how it goes. So who would like to take the first shot? Okay, so I'll take the first shot, then it's Sanjeeb. Sanjeeb, now you talk about liberal studies, and I'm very enamored with the field, as I told you. And the Naropa, also one of the foundations of the Naropa Fellowship, is around the liberal studies. Now, how do you see that in today's context? And is it only a rich person's game? Or how, and especially for the hard-nosed MBAs who join the IIMs, what are we really doing with liberal studies?
Right. I think it's a very timely question for me, because just trying to organize the entire area, and we have succeeded in mainstreaming it. That's the first achievement. So it's become a mainstream area for an IIM, which by itself is no mean feat. The second thing that is there is that we in the IIMs we get the supposedly the best of the lot, because the induction process is so very difficult. I mean, lakhs of candidates appear for the CAT and only a few thousand get selected and they come in. And the cost of education is also quite high. So which means that every child or every kid who comes in and joins an IIM is burdened with a lot of loans. And the first priority that they have is to return the loans. So idealism apart, every person who passes out from an institute says that let me take the first job available so that I can start repaying my loans. Now in this scenario, bringing in liberal arts is something, or liberal studies is something very interesting. So I've been an educator for quite a while. I started my career as a teacher of history, and then I ultimately ended up in IIM Shillong, and I've been there right from the beginning. So what I have noticed is that we have made people wear blinkers and put them into a system where they cannot but have tunnel vision. So what happens is liberal studies actually opens up the mind to the fact that the world is so diverse, the world is so rich, cultures are so rich that it is not enough for a person to be an engineer, it's not enough for a person to be a manager, but in order to be a good manager, in order to be a good entrepreneur, in order to be a good whatever, the first thing that you need to be is be a good human being. And interestingly, our civilization is having to learn what being a good human being is all about, and that's a shame. And the more educated you become, probably the less of a human being you become very, very professional in your approach. And professionalism is something which I look with a little bit of a suspicion, because you say that if you have a ailing parent at home and you have got work in the office, as a professional you should choose office over your ailing parent, which for me is not done. So liberal studies is something which is essentially trying to open up to young minds the entire colors of life. Life is not just about work, life is not just about earning a fat salary, life is not just about earning and earning and earning more. Life is about living life as a good human being. And what Karma was saying about the tradition that the Buddhists have, that the ephemeral, that things are transitory in nature, nothing is for keeps. That's so very important. So when you know that nothing is for keeps, probably only thing that would remain is what you have done in this world for your fellow beings. And that is something so important. And liberal studies actually opens up your mind to the various aspects of life. So it could be music, it could be art, it could be knowledge about the constitution, it could be knowledge about the history, it could be knowledge about finances, it could be knowledge about blockchain, it doesn't confine you to one particular area. So liberal studies, I think, is the by default the mainstay of any good educational system. And slowly that is coming in. And I think that the sooner we started, the better. And that is all I have to say. I could go on for very long, but that would be eating up into the Q&A session. I don't know whether that satisfies you, Mukesh.
No, that's fine. That's a very nice answer. Ashwin had a question. So Ashwin, can you articulate?
Hi. Hi, good afternoon. My question is for Karma. Yeah. Karma, yeah. Hello, Karma. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please ask your question.
Yeah. Hi, Karma. I'm from Kalimpong, and I was in Sikkim for 5 years for my graduation and master's degree. So my question is for you that hailing from a part of Northeast, okay, and going to the like the major cities, like the metropolitan cities of our country, India, like what were the challenges you faced while communicating with the people out there? Because they always sees us the other side, yeah, they call it chinky, momo, etc., etc. So like what were like how you tackle those situations, and how like what were the barriers that you faced on your entrepreneurial ventures because of your appearances?
Okay. So I think I know there is nothing politically correct. There is no manner in which this your question can be politically correctly answered. You've also, Ashwin, you've also been everywhere. You know, there are
Yes.
there are people, there are those kind of issues that people talk about. But I would rather look at it as an entrepreneur. It happens less because, you know, there once you are trying to do something, you have a number of people with you, and basically your life is on a separate track. You know, there is a separate mission. But I can understand this problem earlier on, you know, when you're just starting to work out, or basically when you're a student, and you have to, you know, kind of find a way through the cities. And obviously, most of India is a potpourri, you know. So you have people from all over, different cultures coming in. Some are intolerant because of you know, of their background or of what they've been. See, because as children, as people, you know, as we are born, there is no caste, no creed, no color, no chinky, bleak back. Well, it doesn't happen like that, you know. But everything that is learnt by your it's by your subtext of your surroundings, your peers, etc. You know, so there is it is something that happens today. You will see that probably on a different level. You know, in the hinterlands, you have so many of these rapes, very gory, atrocious things that are happening to women. What we generally face about how we appear is abysmal compared to what happens against women. So, but I'm not saying that you know, your own personal experience. Sometimes for people, it is very distraught. It kind of like shakes them up from inside. There are a lot of people who actually return back to the Northeast. You know, I've seen a lot of instances of that. However, everything has a cutoff point, you know. So you have a threshold. If you say you can deal with it, once you deal with it and you go beyond, like dar ke aage jeet hai, you know, you get that threshold. Once you go beyond that, then it'll stop mattering, because you will stop paying attention to that kind of thing, you know, because it is just a their own, it's trepidations of their own minds, you know, their perspective of the world, which might be very myopic to within their surrounding, within their own clan, within their own people that look alike. It cannot be like in the liberal arts, it cannot be very open to accommodate people of different views, hues, colors, caste, creed, you know. So they don't have that encompassing. So you have to be like the bigger, like the bigger person in this entire thing and say, okay, I'm Chinky. It doesn't really matter, you know. You can call me, you can shout at me. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect my work. You are a passerby, you know. For all you know, you'll be drunk and going up, beating up your wife somewhere. I'm just saying, you know. So you can put that kind of picture in your head, be a little bit, put yourself a little bit higher up and say, hey, you know, these are things that shouldn't affect me, because I'm not in here. I'm not in this game where I'm here to call him names. I'm not a 5-year-old. He calls me something, I call him something, and then we have a try to score brownie points one over the other, right? So it does, because you have to be the bigger person and say, hey, you know, that's okay. It's your perspective. Fair enough. You just walk off. I think that way is, and basically, this is where education is very, very important, and especially liberal arts. You would see both Professor Mukesh and Mr. Sanjeeb also. See the background, you see the amount of books behind. Ashwin, you see that, right? Yeah. So there,
I do
that's
see
how
that.
you. Yeah, that's how you open your mind. I don't have books, unfortunately, because my kids and all, my son actually is doing his classes inside, right? So we are work from home now. He study from home. And my wife is also work from home, another room. I'm the one who's at the balcony now, you know, and with the mom. So it's all about education. So if you don't need to go through the formal education, but at least if you have a mind open, you know, to possibilities, to etc., you will kind of understand that the world has a lot of different people, and the people that actually are have the mindset of, you know, calling you out or belittling you are actually in the minority. The larger number of people actually appreciate what you're doing. And if you're doing good for them, you know, if you're doing good for the community, if you're doing good for a number of people, that's how you should overcome. Because life is too short. I will tell you something, life is too short. If you think about your death, no, most of the things in life is sorted. Also taking off on what I think Professor Sanjeev was telling, which is one thing that I wanted to touch on. It is not relevant directly to this about the discrimination against Northeast, but I will tell you something very important. The other thing, especially in entrepreneurship also, it is a different kind of financial discrimination. You know, once you get into a trap, the biggest thing that kills entrepreneurs, not only in Northeast, in most of India, and especially the third world, say Southeast Asia, not Southeast Asia, but South Asia, and especially the urban people who are educated, etc., the biggest killer of entrepreneurship is an EMI. This is equated monthly installment. That is financial discrimination. It is a way to ensure that you become a slave to a service, to a company. You hold on to a job. You can't take any risks. So this is the other thing that I just wanted to throw it out there. But good question, Ashwin. I hope I answered your question.
Yes,
I
thank
just
you
want
so
to add
much.
something, Mukesh, to this question. I just remembered something. This was a question that was asked of Gandhiji, that how do you react when somebody insults you, taunts you? And his answer was very nice. I just wanted to share this. The first thing he said was, what happens when somebody gives you a gift and you don't take it? Where will the gift remain? And the question seeker said that it will remain in my hand. So if somebody tries to insult you, don't take it. It'll go back to that person who's trying to insult you. Then as the conversation carried on, he said that when children, sometimes they throw dust at the sun or they spit up at the sun. And where does it land? It lands back in their own faces. No? So when somebody, you've got to, like Karma was saying, that you've got to go up to the next higher level, so that no matter who says what, it ultimately goes back to the person who's saying it. I just thought I should share this little anecdote from Gandhi. It was so very
Thank you
nice.
so much.
Thanks. Look, what I would request is, because there are a lot of questions here, so let's try and move forward quickly. There's one from the class, from campus. So can we have And I must apologize because I did not realize that a lot of our students on campus are just sharing one image. And I assume that they were all having their own images here on the laptop. So we have some participation from campus.
Somebody is logged in twice, yeah.
Jordan, can we have, I'll just narrate a small one-liner here. We talk about educating ourselves and opening up our mind and then traveling. And I would like to conclude that by saying we travel, we go all over, and then we return back to where we started our journey from. And when we look at that with a fresh set of eyes and value what we have. And I see that very true about me and my family, where we lived 9 years in the US and thought we went there for a year and just went on and on and on till my wife took the courageous decision of leaving me and coming back, leaving me as in not breaking our marriage, but just coming back to India. And then I followed. So I think education is about traveling the world and talking to people and then coming back to where you started and saying, I have gained by all these interactions and let me start afresh. So can we have somebody from campus, please?
Just to update you, Mukesh and our guests, Sanjeeb and Pramath, we have about 15 students online from their respective homes because we're following a hybrid model of running the campus right now because of COVID-19. We have about 18 students in the classroom here at Ladakh in Leh, and we have about 18 students in the classroom, and so that is the Naropa classroom, and we have the rest, about 50 of them online. So there's a question from the classroom, and we have very erratic internet and electricity in Ladakh, so you have to bear with us. I'm passing the speaker to the students who are going to ask the question.
And after that, we'll have Sanjit coming up with his question.
Hello, sir. This is Shivam from the campus.
Can you hear me?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is for Bhutia. So my question is there any sort of advantage in entrepreneur for the people who belong to the mountains?
So so I think the question, what I heard clearly, though it was a little muffled, is there any advantage for being entrepreneur from the mountains, right? So the short answer to that is actually there is no difference. An entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. It's basically a creed of being able to find solutions to a problem. You know, you see something, you find solutions to a problem, and I guess there is the other one, which is the entrepreneur who is basically built on passion. You know, so you have a passion, you don't care about what the world is. So if you're a simple example is if you're a gun maker, you know, like if you like drawing guns and making guns, etc., and you don't actually care about the business around it, and you keep building better guns, you become an expert in it, you know, and you've never actually bothered about how it's going to sell, etc., etc. But after a period of time, through word of mouth, people like your guns, they could look at to take it for shooting, etc. Gun might be a very bad example in the Indian context, but I'm just telling you, that is how the entire how the West was won. You know, when people during probably 1847 they started this mass migration towards 49 rather, they started this mass migration from New York to the promised West Coast for gold. You know, and the guns and all, when it came up, it was basically few individuals like that were very passionate about building this. So they didn't have a business motive in mind, but once they started building, they started getting better, and then you know, people started taking it up. So like that. So that is one aspect of it. The other aspect is basically the entrepreneurial spirit is basically a creed of being able to fix solutions to a problem. You know, problems that are interesting. you would look at it, oh, this is an interesting problem. And also through that, probably the other layer to that is to look at which kind of is subliminal, but it comes out is the way to look at adversity, especially the opportunities within adversity. So that is the other creed of an entrepreneur. And so these are this is common across all entrepreneurs, whether you're from the mountain, you're from the plain, you're from the river, you're from the sea, it really doesn't matter. The entrepreneurial creed is this: to have that. In Hindi there is a word that probably describes it best, but which is so far from the actual way it is actually supposed to be used. It is called kida. Kida means basically it is an insect, I think, but the kida is basically something that will not. It's basically it kind of like eats you up, you know. So that is basically the creed that passes through all entrepreneurs, to have that kida, to be able to see a problem and say, hey, there is an opportunity here, looks like, and this is something that I can solve with a team. Me myself can start, I can get in a team and we can fix this, you know, to be able to fix something. So that creed is common. The advantages for mountain folks basically is we probably have a little more resilience as compared to most, is because we come from places which are pretty isolated. So the other thing that we can do is we can deal better with businesses or etc. when it goes through different phases. You know, every business has a sinusoidal spike, up and down, up and down. You know, you have a good highs, you have a bad lows. There is a way that in which we can cope better when we go through those throes of the lows rather. And so that gives us better resilience. It might not be true for everybody, but I've seen that mountain entrepreneurs have that, you know, and we are in a way a little bit more, I guess, more community based in that sense. So that probably is the other advantage. Other than that, it is all the same. Everywhere it is the same. An entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. I don't believe that you have to be very boisterous and very, you know, demanding and pushy, etc. An entrepreneur is, I think, the one like who drives a team, like the football team. If you believe a football analogy, to be like you know, a manager, the Jurgen Klopp of the world, you know. So that I would put it as an entrepreneur, to find the best possible team to be able to solve the problems that you're working on. And the world has enough problems, and there are a lot of things that can be solved. So these are the advantages. But the home state advantage for mountain entrepreneurs is, if you're going to do something, use a product or a medium or the facilities or the geography of the mountains, then as a mountain entrepreneur, you have a huge advantage, which probably other people don't have. Because in the mountains, the policies are very much localized. It's for locals. You have so many restrictions, inner line permit, land use laws, etc., etc. You know, so that way it's very beneficial for local mountain entrepreneurs to be able to, you know, extrapolate and take that benefit, which, and probably that is the advantage that the mountain entrepreneur would have over everybody else. I hope I answered your question.
Thanks. Sanjeev, you had a question?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is to Sanjeeb Kakoty, sir. Since you have a vast experience working in the Northeast, so I just wanted to know that you know, the Northeastern states has just recently, you know, started promoting the ecosystem of startup and entrepreneurship. So here the entrepreneurs always faces the problems of lacking the support of the government in the aspects of funding. So how do you see this problem, and how, as an entrepreneur, we can overcome this?
There are two parts to the answer. The first part is one thing that Karma has been talking about is the passion that an entrepreneur needs to have.
Passion.
So passion would come from love, and actually every person has a deep love for one's own community, one's own state, one's own region. But as Karma was saying, that probably in the Northeast the communities are still quite strong. Unlike other parts, in the Northeast the communities are strong, and probably it's something to do with the Jhuming culture, where Jhuming is not possible at an individual level. It is always the community that has to take part in. So even the food supply is dependent on the community coming together. So one thing that we need to do, I will come to your exact question, but since we might be running out of time, and this is a point I thought I should make, I'm using the opportunity, is that love for mountains is something that has to be there in every person who is from the mountains. And what is love for the mountains is not just the ecology of the place, but also the entire ecosystem, which comprises of people, cultures, and the ecology. So once you have a deep love for this, you will also realize that the present economic conditions, or the present economic model that we have that is trying to promote consumerism, is actually pushing young people towards entrepreneurship that is just trying to hitch onto the bandwagon of trying to earn more without any love for the region, for the community, for the mountains. Now, the kind of entrepreneurs I would like to see out of this Naropa Fellowship would be people who have a deep love for the mountains and the mountain ecosystems. And it is possible to actually create, hemp was one example, bamboo could be another example, medicinal plants could be another example. So what happens is we are trying to create an economic model that would bring about sustainable development of the mountain regions. Now, as the present economy is going, what happens is probably the mountain regions are some of the last bastions of the minerals and other stuff which the country needs to, I am using the word exploit in order to keep up the growth trajectory. Now, if you have the passion and love for the place, what happens is no barrier is going to be too large. It's going to be so very difficult for you to surmount. Now, what I have seen is that in my own journey as an entrepreneur, it was the looking at government support was probably the last thing that was there in your mind. If it came, it was good. If it did not come, it doesn't matter because you're working out of passion. And the community could be used here. The Koreans in the US, when they first went there, they were not able to access finances. So what they did was they created a system whereby each individual pays a particular sum, and every week the total sum would be used as the capital for that group. And they took money by turns. So what happens is we can actually take advantage of the community, strong community systems that we have, but with good accounting and transparency in the entire process, so that we are able to overcome some of the difficulties that might come. The other thing which I have seen as a teacher is that there are so many schemes that are there that even a teacher like mine is not aware of all the schemes. So it might not be possible for an entrepreneur to know what are the different schemes that one could apply for. So you might have to create a small little group of people who have undergone that journey, who could kind of acquaint you with different kinds of schemes and projects that are there. But I think the moment you start looking at government support to emerge as an entrepreneur, I think you've already lost it. You've got to do it on your own steam first. And in the journey, if you get something good for you, if you don't get it, doesn't matter. You can always turn back and say that I stood on my own feet without any support. I hope that answers. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to skip the question by Shubhangi, because that's kind of related to what you were already talking about. But Insha Mir has a good question about filmmaking. Now, that's something that we have not spoken about at all. So, Insha, you want to clarify what the question is? It's there in my chat box, but just read it out aloud, please.
The question, hello Sanjeeb, hi everybody. So the question is about filmmaking. I want to know like what trait or what characteristic makes a filmmaker. See, I don't believe any filmmaker is good or bad. But then what traits actually make hello? Hello?
Your connection is iffy. It gets on and off.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. We are living in 2G zone.
Sanjeev, I'll just read out her question that's come up in the chat box. What's the important trait or quality for a filmmaker to express what he or she wants to? You're on mute, Sanjeev. You're on mute.
So sorry. The one quality that is extremely essential for us is we need to be honest. We need to be honest with ourselves, and we need to be honest with the audience. So that's one single trait that will differentiate a good filmmaker from a great filmmaker. Now, what happens is there is something what the audience wants to see, and there is something that you need to portray. So when we started the Northeast Data Bank, actually, the audience would love to see the long-haired Northeast guy either picking up a gun or the guitar. But we wanted to say that no, that's not the story, and that might not be very popular of what you're trying to say. But what happens is you swim against the tide and say that this is the story that I need to say. This is the story that I need to tell, and you've got to be very, very honest about it. So the one trait that is required is honesty. Actually, you would have to differentiate between a filmmaker and a documentary filmmaker. So I am essentially a documentary filmmaker trying to show life as it is to the world outside. But one very interesting conversation that was there with Slumdog Millionaires is that India is seen as a land of beggars. India is seen as a land of snake charmers. India is seen as a land with so much of contradictions. And if you make a film on those lines for the Western world, there is very highly likely that you might win an award for it because you are reinforcing the stereotypes. Whereas if you make a film that is slightly different, I mean, you're trying to tell the story as you see it, then it may not be very popular. But at the end of the day, it is not popularity that you're aiming at. You're trying to tell the real story as you see it. So honesty again is something that's so very essential. I hope I've satisfied your question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So this is a question by Varun, and this is open to both of you, Karma and Sanjeev. Varun, you want to repeat your question so that people hear it?
Yeah, hi, thank you both of you for all the wisdom that you're sharing. And this is a question which is a little personal to me, might sound a little anarchist, but it is something that comes to my mind many times, because today when you see the way things are growing right now in the mountains especially, I mean, the growth is unparalleled to anything that we've ever seen before. And the whole idea of consumption is going on a big scale. So I'm thinking as an entrepreneur, I'm thinking, how do you guys see that as a tool for bringing around a change in social understanding of how growth should be? And especially because, we are trying to conserve resources. We are growing in numbers. We want to conserve and also have a steady growth. So you want to increase the economy and have on one side things grow up and on the other side the things go down. So what is your take on how to make some sense of this scenario? Thank you.
Okay. Professor Sanjeev, I'll just briefly, can
Sure.
I go first? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, please do.
Very poignant, Varun, the question that you put about, because not many people are thinking about sustainability. By 2015, we'll have about 10 billion people on this planet, right? So 2050 is in another 30 years. So within the last 150 odd years, we went from 1.3 billion to 10 billion people. Ironically, the land mass is still the same. That means the land that actually produces your agriculture, where your food, your meat, your fruits, vegetables, everything comes from, cereals, etc., is still the same. That's not growing. Whereas the population has grown about 1,000%. How do you think this is sustainable? You tell me. It's absolutely not sustainable. It's unfathomable that the planet still is functioning as it is functioning. Okay. So then what do we do? I mean, have some mezcal, some psychedelics, call Elon Musk, ask him take us to Mars. And the prophet Elon Musk says now that in another 4 to 5 years, we all will go to Mars. That in the history of our planet, that is Earth, which now I think we are about approximately 4 billion years, right? Universe is around 13.8 billion years, 13.7, 13.8. The Earth, planet Earth exists for about 4 billion years in this, right? Approximately. Now in the entire history of this planet, which is 4 billion years, we are now going to be the first interplanetary species in the next 5 years. We are at the cusp of something very, very big. Humans will be this interplanetary species, not because they can, but because they have to. We are escaping. It's like having alcohol, you know, or drugs, you know, to escape your daily worries, etc. The worry is this 10 billion people cannot survive on this planet. It's not going to happen. You can do everything under the sun, vertical agriculture, hydroponics, etc., etc. Believe you me, you've seen the Antarctic, what's happening at the Arctic and the Antarctic, right? The ice melts. Greenland has now literally become green, right? Greenland is supposed to be ice, and now Greenland is literally green. We have the entire permafrost, which was under the, frozen for about millions of years. Now it's all coming out, I mean, and releasing toxic gases. So it's completely bizarre. These are very, very, we are human evolution, I think we've reached our peak now, you know. So we are becoming an interplanetary species. There's no doubt about that. We are escaping this planet. There's no doubt about that. And we have ruined the planet by overpopulation and use of, all the hydrocarbons, etc., and releasing so much of greenhouse gases. We've doomed ourselves that now we need somebody like Elon Musk to come and bail us out, put us on a ship and basically ship us to Mars. But we don't know what our chances are there on Mars, because look at what we did to this planet. The one that existed for 4 billion years without any problem. And now we are at a cusp where we're saying we've completely ruined it. We can't survive on this anymore. We need to get out. So this is the problem. Humans, and now you can see 2020, right? Look at 2020, where we are. Isolated on Zoom. I can't shake Professor Mukesh's hand. Sanjeeb, I can say hi to you. We are like this, you know, talking to each other over a Zoom. Thank God for Zoom though. But this is where we are. We've ruined this, right? In that ways, we have very little hope. But now as an entrepreneur, if you put an entrepreneurial hat, it changes everything. You see so much adversity, you have to think like Elon Musk. Hey, this planet, this is dying. These people are all going to die. They can't secure their water and their food. Let's take them to another planet. I'll build a big spaceship. I'll put all these, I'll build a digging company called a boring company, build all the expertise here. And I'll maybe go and dig on Mars, create an entire city under the terra firma of Mars. So that's where it's at. The people who are giving those moonshot ideas, now it's actually Mars shot ideas, are going to win. He's become a multi-billionaire because of that. Because human beings, the element of hope, right? When the planet, entire thing, it's not about fear, because this is reality. We've been indoctrinated from the last 40 odd years. We've been indoctrinated. It's been ingrained in our head. Unlike Donald Trump, it's been ingrained in the head that climate change, global warming, all of this is happening. We are polar ice caps, all of that is diminishing. We are killing, yeah. So now we are at this juncture where we're saying, hey, we need a way out. He's going to show us a way out. Anybody who shows the way out, he's obviously going to get the vote from us. I mean, you can take all my money. So that's where we are. But as an entrepreneur, with this problem, you want to secure something, food and water for the next 30, 40 years. The wars that were fought in the past was for land, you want to acquire more land. The future is going to be over water. These simple resources: air, water, food. Three things that the war is going to be over. You secure yourself and ration it to the others, and what you have control over, you'll be king. That's the entrepreneurial spirit. That's the entrepreneurial opportunity for the next 30, 40 years. Thank you.
Hello.
Mukesh, you're on mute. Mukesh, you're on mute.
Okay, so let me just add 2 bits here. While I share the concern that Karma has expressed, I'm a big believer that the younger generation, you, are asking the right questions, and many of you will get into domains where you're not doing, as one of the fellows has asked, running a business for the sake of making a profit. And we saw that with the Akhil case. We saw that in one of Vairaku, Ankur, saying that, look, if you're getting into a business to make a profit, you shouldn't be in business. But if you're getting into it to solve a problem, and these problems around us, while Karma has pointed out are entrepreneurial opportunities, I think the fact that the younger generation is asking these questions and is getting involved, I would be a lot more optimistic that we will be here, because the questions are the right questions. The problem is finding answers to them, and unless you ask the right questions, you won't get answers. Okay, Molly, let's talk to you for a bit. Jess, you want to add to this conversation, because you know both the guests we have today, and you are dealing with young people all the time. So you want to add this a bit?
While she's getting the audio ready, I think I just need to add something to Karma, what Karma has said. The thing is, this morning I was reading something, and a friend of mine said, I'm both an optimist and a pessimist. I said, how can you be both? He said, there are times when I think like the inventor of the aeroplane. I'm a very optimistic person, so I think I can fly. But the pessimist is the guy who actually invented the parachute. So we need to have both of this, the optimist creating the aeroplane and the pessimist creating the parachute. Now what Varun was saying is absolutely right. What we need to do now is actually change the paradigm, and that's where entrepreneurship comes in. If every Indian were to consume at the level of an American, we would need an earth that is 2.5 times the size that we have today. So that's not going to happen. So the only way to bring about a change is to change the way we consume and change the way we live our lives, and that is going to be entirely dependent on all the young people. Change the paradigm, and entrepreneurship is about changing the paradigm. The way we have been running this earth is not the way we should have been running. And like Karma was saying, that if Elon Musk makes a huge spaceship and a lot of people get up on it and go, I was telling myself that I'll stay back, because I'll just clean up the mess. It's possible. So what essentially entrepreneurship would need to do is to clean up the mess and bring about a change. And this change is there. I mean, we talk about Buddhist economics, which is there, which is becoming mainstream now. We can talk. We also talk about the flatline growth curve, where the growth curve is not exponentially growing. I mean, it cannot grow. Finite resources cannot go on giving us exponential growth. So we'll have to look at the flatline growth curve, where we say that the basic essentials of life are met through a production system, but the rest of the time we use it for this is for Mukesh's consumption, for liberal arts and liberal studies. So we use our life to develop ourselves after meeting the basic requirements, and I think it is possible, and I'm highly optimistic that it can be done.
Thank you,
yeah,
Sanjeeb.
that's what I wanted to add.
Thanks, Sanjeeb. I would like to go into the class and get somebody from the campus to ask a few questions.
Hi, can you hear me, Mukesh? Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, we have no electricity today. So we are working as true entrepreneurs do, trying to make the best of the opportunity we have here without electricity. So it's a bit erratic. You'll have to bear with us. Just to add a line or two to that, what Mukesh had requested. what we're trying to do, how to make entrepreneurs bring about change. And at Naropa Fellowship, while we have about
You could try switching off your video. I think your voice will become clear then, Jaslin.
Yeah, I switched off my video. So am I audible? Yeah. So okay, thank you. What we're trying to do, to help resolve the problem is starting an institute like the Naropa Fellowship, where we have a lot of fellows from across the country and outside of the country as well, and with a lot of passion, wanting to bring about some change in all these sectors that we can possibly think of. That young people in the country with so much of passion, but not really having the right direction to go about on how to bring about change, is what brought about the Naropa Fellowship into existence as well, where we felt, giving them the right skills, the right track of thoughts, and give them the opportunities to really work hands-on on entrepreneurial ventures while they are with us through what we call the life action projects, that after they finish a year with us, they have they have the right skills, the right thoughts. And from the liberal arts track, we have also multiple perspective, critical thinking. So we send out about 60 to 70 young, passionate people who are environment conscious, who are responsible young people out into the world to bring about and go into entrepreneurial ventures. That is what we are trying to do here. And I'm so glad that we have people like Sanjeeb, who is 1 year senior to me back in the university. And Karma, I think I'm meeting for the first time. That I'm so glad that we have finally, Mukesh, thanks to you also, and IMI, that we're connecting the Northeast and the rest of, Ladakh and the rest of mainland India finally. I'm sure we can come up with a lot of work. Due to lack of time, Mukesh, I'm giving you back the phone. I think there's a question from the classroom, and if Sewang can ask his question, I'll just, yeah.
We would like a few questions.
There's a question from the classroom. I'll just,
please
give it to him.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, so my name is Sewang, and I'm from Ladakh. I'm asking a question from Karma sir, as he was talking about the planet is dying, and many humans are trying to flee to Mars. So what should we do? Should we go back to our villages and live like old days? Because that can be the best alternative right now, as many Ladakhis are doing, and they are going back to the old ways, like farming and creating their own food.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because I'm not saying everybody has to flee. I'm just saying this is where it is at. The Elon Musk kind of scenario is probably the scenario which has come out of a need, right? So that understanding that need is where we can kind of like build upon. It's not going to be the end of the world. If it's lasted for 4 billion years, it will continue to what end it will be, that I don't know. What scenario it's going to build or what it will look like in another 200, 300 years, that I'm totally unaware of. But we have had huge events that are very catastrophic to the planet in the past as well. About if you recall, 65 million years to 100 million years ago, you had this paleo extinction period, which is basically, there were big giants that actually lived on this planet, right? So dinosaurs, and you had this paleo extinction period. It came, asteroid came, and the whole incinerated the entire population of these dinosaurs. And from that, so the good also comes from that. It's all about change. If you understand the context of the mandala, which I was telling you, I think you do, when I started out, is basically this impermanence. Through the impermanence, you bring in change, and through change, you bring something new. after the paleo extinction period, the 65 million year old period, that event that happened, we got human beings, that means mammals came into the picture. After reptilian, mammals started coming in. And with mammals, what happened is we have this part, right? This prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex, if you cut it out, it's basically the size of a handkerchief. But with this, we have done everything from liberal arts to critical thinking, to innovation, to taming fire, taming animals, building this much infrastructure, plundering the earth, taking out all the hydrocarbons, now thinking of going to Mars. It's all happened because of a prefrontal cortex. The amygdala inside and the prefrontal cortex, the two things. And this came with mammals. This came after that paleo extinction period, after the asteroid hit. Because prior to that, no dinosaurs have your cortex, this prefrontal cortex. It doesn't work, right? With mammals, now with mammals, we have this capability to do all this thinking, to look at ourselves, to have compassion, to think about the others. We've reached this phase because of a big event that destroyed the planet. And today there are no dinosaurs 65 million years from that particular point in time. Now, it doesn't mean that there will not be another event like this. There will be, because that's our history. Before that, there is an opportunity to go somewhere else. That could be one of the avenues, right? But what that also means is why we need to go back again to our past, which you are saying a lot of people are going into our past and looking and trying to do farming, etc. That you should do by default. You should go back to your roots by default. When you're looking out to conquer the world outward, doesn't mean you should not put up the edifice or the structures that you will need inside. Those structures are needed because everybody is here, even all the people that are here, from Professor Mukesh, Sanjeeb, Sonali, Jaslin, everybody, we all are here. The most common thread among all of us humans is we are going to die. We have to prepare for that as a human being, I'm telling, not as an entrepreneur. Our preparation as we are born is to prepare how we die. The eventual thing, the truth, the final truth, right? So how we lead our lives is basically about that, which even Professor Mukesh alluded to, is the fact that he traveled all over the world, he came back, and now he started going inwards, right? All of the religion, most of the religion in the world try to take you inwards into yourself because of that very fact. Because that inner engineering is what basically will relieve you. When you're at the near end of your life, all of this looks like an illusion because it will just pass by as memories in your head. All your entire life will just flash back as memories. That is what the illusion is of life. All the ego, all the fighting, etc. that we've done, it doesn't mean shit. I'm sorry, I use that word, but there is no other way to describe it. It doesn't mean shit. Finally, when you're at peace, the entire thing, the entire illusion that you've lived this entire life, it passes back. That's why you need to prepare, right? So irrespective, you still have to go back. Everybody needs to do that. You see these older folks who've gone, lived in the cities, worked in the cities, etc. Big office jobs, engineers, etc. Now finally, when they're at their final end, they come back to their places. It is like those larks, those birds. They go all over hunting, the whole day foraging for food, etc. In the evening, they come back to their caves, houses in the caves, and they kind of settle down. That's what we all are doing, can do, should do, and start going inwards. You consume less of things and have those things ready for the people who need them, outside also. And probably when it's about 10 billion people on the planet, you have some kind of means and ways, entrepreneurs that are building probably some small tablet you put in, you don't have to eat food for a month, something like that, because the future is going to, our next evolution, we've reached a zenith. The evolution is, there will be a lot of integration. We've seen AI, robotics, etc. taking on most of the work. There is, one thing that you should probably look at is also another Elon Musk company. Unfortunately, he's at the cusp of most of these things. is a company called Neuralink, which is kind of integrating your brain with to be able to augment you to do a couple of things which probably we can't, because even the bandwidth which he kind of articulates is the bandwidth that we think versus the amount of words that come out is very slow. This is a very slow bandwidth, inefficient. Speaking is very inefficient as a medium. So hence these things are there. Considering all of that, we have to still go inward here, inward probably to our roots, go back to an organic lifestyle, use less pesticide, create a more sustainable mountain ecosystem, and hope that the whole world also follows. Sikkim is one of the first states in the probably in the country and probably the world to be declared an organic state. So in small ways, these are small paths that are leading forward, and it is something that everybody can replicate. It is doable. We might not be able to feed everybody immediately for the probably in the foreseeable future, but gradually we will reach there if everybody turns organic. You know, that is again the coming back, as Professor Mukesh said, of the entire food chain ecosystem. Thank you.
Let me just add there, because I think two of the very strong inputs that are facilitating that, one are campuses, college campuses, universities, schools, and the other, the younger people. Now, I'll give you an example now that you've talked about Sikkim, because Sikkim is a very popular topic among some of us at IMA, because the MP from Sikkim evidently was a PGP, an MBA student at IIM Bangalore. Now, he has facilitated so many connects of IIM Bangalore. In fact, I was planning a holiday there till this occurred, where he's inviting us to come there and just see Sikkim and have a look, and then open your mind to how people can be sustainable. And to be an organic state, do you understand that if you are organic but your neighbor is not, the whole thing is a waste, because his rainwater is going to spill into your territory and going to damage whatever efforts you have put in. So till we all get together and realize, the water example now, the planet is 5/6 or 4/5 or 6/7 water. So there's enough water. The problem is that it is salty. Now, should we devote our time to trying to make that salty and seawater potable, or understanding why we have a water shortage and why we are in Bangalore, we are drilling to huge depths and the water table is falling. Our policies in Punjab, for example, are such that we encourage crops that take a huge amount of water because of our wrong economic policies. Sorry, this session is about the guests, so I shouldn't be jumping in like this. Tell me, Sanjeeb, you want to add a little bit to this conversation, because I was very impressed with what Karma has said, and if you would like to take it forward.
I think there was somebody who was trying to ask a question.
Let's get them on. Who is that? Are you looking at the chat box?
No, Sonali was trying to ask something. Who was it?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, related to water, like we can work on behavior change, because when we have water, then people used to waste it, and then suddenly they means if we can work on behavior change related to water, means people know that there is less water, but still they are not effectively using it, and in long run everyone know that we will face this problem, and we can work on water site management. So what is the scope for this as an entrepreneur means, and for food
Okay.
kitchen?
I'll just take a minute to before the entrepreneur comes in. We talk of nudging, and in fact, it's one of the chapters in the book that I'm writing, where we try and encourage good behavior, which is good for everybody, without adding any benefits. For example, the Swachh Bharat initiative was a nudge initiative. So in water, the old joke is that if we all had to carry the water on our head, we would start realizing its value and use it well. At IIM Ahmedabad, we did a study on campus, and I've been pushing our maintenance people. All we have to do is to go to every single faucet and tap, and as a routine, once a month, make sure it's not leaking. And we solve our water problem within the campus immediately. So we have to nudge people to do what is correct. But then I think your question, Sonali, was what is the entrepreneurial opportunity behind it? And that, Karma, I think you are the best person to answer.
Okay. Sonali, so thank you, Professor. So water, right? So I faced water problems myself. So I took a really a bullhead kind of approach to that. So to secure, so in my village in Sikkim, right? So there are a lot of my land. There's a chunk of land which basically is a water source for about 450 odd houses, like about 3-4 villages. Now the water passes, I mean, if you understand the mountainscape, the water passes through that in a pipe just above my house. I don't get to tap it. So which is very interesting. I don't get to tap it. It's a government, the government pipes are government. It is PH, Public Health Engineering Department has put it up, or whatever, RMDB. The source is mine. Water goes, all the 450 houses are consuming it for like 20-25 years. I don't get to tap it, right? And because now, I mean, it's become a kiosk in terms of the governance, etc. For that particular district. Now the other bullhead thing that I did is then I acquired the land just above, my house, because there is another water source on that land which again belonged to my cousin of mine. So I bought that land just to secure water. The land is kept as is. So before that, my uncle sold it to somebody else. I bought it just to secure that water for myself. So this is not something everybody can do. But what is going to happen is the fight over water. Like for example, the thing that we probably are not discussing is also water comes from some source, right? We can understand the water cycle which we were taught when we were small, but most of this water stays captive in the mountains as form of glaciers. Now, if you look at the Indian Himalayan region, forget the Hindu Kush, the other side, but if in Indian Himalayan region, there is massive glof, which is the glacial, it's basically the melting, and basically churning of melting and immediately conversion to water, liquid, This kind of events are happening all over the Indian Himalayan region. Because of that, now what is happening is you have a lot of freak, they call it flash floods in those altitudes, about like 10,000, 12,000 feet above mean sea level, flash floods. Even in Sikkim, we had those kind of events. We have a new lake that is created out of glof. The glaciers melting, they're creating these unstable lakes at very, very high altitudes, which can break at any point in time. And we had actually Mr. Sonam Wangchuk from Ladakh actually go to Sikkim. He's done one of the big engineering works in the South Lonak Lake, which is about at 18, above 18,000 feet, I think, South Lonak Lake. So he put a siphon there. He took the pipe, walked about 10 days, put a pipe there and tried to siphon the water out of that lake, because that will create another huge, lake burst, and that can take down villages and townships around the river banks, which had happened in Rishikesh some time back. So the entrepreneurial activity here is, and you have seen the ice stupa, etc. also, that is because of, again, glaciers melting very, very fast. Glaciers are vanishing. If we don't have glaciers, it doesn't feed any of these rivers. And if you don't have this entire river system, then we've basically broken the chain in the water cycle system of the Indian Himalayan mountains. So now we are in a fix, right? So in this instance, what can be done is, I've seen some of the things that are done around water, basically at the glacial level, which Sonam Wangchuk has done, which is ice stupa. Then we have Pema Norbu has done, which is built artificial glaciers. Those are the activities that are happening. And also, as far as possible, if we can conserve as much water at the higher altitudes, because climate change, the temperature, even if it goes by a few Fahrenheit, is going to create a lot of problems at the glacial level, where all of those permafrost are going to get pulled down. And because it is the third pole, the Indian Himalayan region is the third largest reservoir of fresh water, but one that is basically, because being proximity to the equator, it is the one that is melting the fastest and vanishing the quickest. So the entrepreneurial activity here is not only around conservation, but to find means like water harvesting, Dhara Vikas programs, to have massive Dhara Vikas programs. And every house in the villages should be incentivized to do some form. Government should have, like we have right to education, at least in the Indian Himalayan region, you should have right to rainwater harvesting. every village house should have some kind of mechanism to harvest their water themselves, because the dry periods are, it wreaks havoc on livelihoods, on even survival for many people in the mountain regions. Summers are okay, because during the monsoon period, again, the irony is you have so much land, you have so much water that is landslide everywhere, is taking away houses. Again, that is the other thing, you know. And every monsoon in Sikkim, I keep wondering, why can't we just put a pipe directly and reach it to Gujarat, you know, because there, or the Rajasthan Thar Desert, you guys, those people will enjoy fresh water directly through this pipe right up to, I mean, but obviously it can't be done. You can't have one pipe going there. But it's basically, this is the climate change. The climate change is 365-day proposition, whereas rain, or rather the monsoons, are just a fraction of the climate mechanism, right? And then we have these dry spells. So how do we manage that? It's like budgeting, you know. It's like budget, like the onion prices, tomato prices. In the winter or whenever it's plentiful, it becomes maybe 10 rupees, 8 rupees per kg. Suddenly during the summer, June, July period, if you have a very, very big warehouse, refrigerated warehouse, if you stock up all the, onions and tomatoes, you probably can make lots of billions of dollars. India government goes, government falls and goes because of price of onion and tomatoes, right? So this is also an entrepreneurial opportunity. Likewise, water, anything relating to water harvesting, etc., that can be done, you should do. And also, like Jesslyn was saying, see, power is a problem there. Solar is a big opportunity there in Ladakh. You're in Ladakh, right? Leh. Solar, you put solar panels massively, you know, you can do that because there no cloud. Cloud doesn't go there. At that altitude, there's no cloud. There's no, you can have direct snow, I think, but there's no cloud. So that entire thing is exposed, and you know, you got blue skies with lots of sunshine. You put massive amount of solar farms there, it should work. Probably winter months when it snows, it's a little bit problematic. But other than that, most of the times you have very good sunshine. Probably that is one of the things that can be done there as well. Thank you.
I have a question, sir. Yeah. So, sir, the society is moving at a very fast speed towards technological advancements. So every day you see tech startups getting, various rounds of funding from different VCs. So at this point of time where enterprises with a holistic approach, caring for people as well as planet is need for the hour, they're definitely needed in the society. But what is the scope of such enterprises, sir? Because at the end there will always be vested interests of capitalism, and we will be somewhat fighting against those interests. For instance, I want to get in the field of medical cannabis, but then there will always be a pharmaceutical company trying to suppress that industry because it has its own interest. Or I want to make Earth a better place, and then there will be a guy who say, fuck Earth, let's go to Mars. So how do you, so what is the scope of such enterprises?
Okay, before Karma starts, Karma, we need to be brief because we are supposed to end at 1:30. Please take this question.
Okay. So that is the question for the ages, right? So yes, we are saying VCs generally have a profit motive. They are going to look at your traction and your balance sheet, etc., and to be able to, whereas when we talk about sustainability, it is more a semi kind of like quasi-socialist kind of agenda that kind of flows, which might be contrary to the capitalist phenomenon, in which probably a VC or any investor would, a banker or an investor would operate. Now that so to answer that question, Himanshu, there is a very simple example. Okay, so if, for example, Google started putting advertising and started earning revenue from day one, right? It would not exist. Facebook, if they started charging you to post your pictures before you can share it with your friends and colleagues, etc., would you have paid Facebook? Would you have taken Facebook as a service? No, right? So it's a free service. So there are opportunities like that where you have to start thinking over the box and look at how successful they've become, because you have to be able to convince the investors that there is a bigger motive, a bigger operation at hand, which is the acquisition of this data of these individuals. And once you acquire them, you can do a lot of things with that data. Advertising will come because other people also want to access the same demography of people. So it is free for you to use. That means you are the one who's creating the content, making it exciting, and they're sending you notification, is giving you a buzz in your pleasure, this thing, releasing endorphins. You're again going, checking notification and going back, you know. So it is a psychological play. And then, but it is free for you, right? So it is a business that can be done. There are these type of businesses that can be done, especially in the digital world, that can be free to the people, but yet all the capitalists, the venture capitalists, the banks and all, not the banks in India, but basically the banks outside will kind of like understand what you're trying to do, because acquiring data, acquiring user profiles, all of this is also it is a model, and it's very lucrative. Now, in the Indian context, if you come back and say, okay, you know, I want to build something like the hemp story you said, right? Then there's the pharmacology, the pharmacopoeia, all of this. Now, if you are passionate about that, about creating a product for either treatment, therapies, etc., if you go ahead, build something small and start it, you know, you just have to start it. Those pharma companies are not going to touch it in India for quite some time, because there are certain regulations behind that. We have our own standard national drug policy, which kind of like forbids most of the pharmaceutical companies to come and jump into this particular space. And basically because it has a lot of activities around the farming activity, which again comes under the agricultural sector, there are multiple policies that actually govern it. So hence, big pharma to come in immediately is not going to be. If that is something that you're thinking, there will be probably through IMI an initiative to work on a policy that is pan-Himalayan region, to have some kind of policy around hemp. I'm not saying medical marijuana or something like that, but hemp. Hemp is a different, it's a very, very small subset of very little cannabinoid and very little, there's absolutely no THC, but very, very small percentage of cannabinoid. So through that, probably there is some kind of opportunity to work at. And this is the way that you have to find opportunities for sustainability, which has a social angle, which has sustainable angle, but which has an angle for investment also, for business, something that can grow to the larger context also. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Karma. I think we are drawing to the end of this very, very nice panel. Jess, you want to say a few words to wind everything up? If your internet is okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Mukesh and Karma. And I think Sanjeeb had a class, so he had to leave. This is the first time we've ever had a session with entrepreneurs from the Northeast, and I think it was extremely value addition and extremely encouraging. I think we need to do more of this, and I'm sure Mukesh is the one who is coordinating our entire entrepreneurial journey for the fellows at Naropa in terms of the academics. And we can definitely plan more into this, Mukesh, and we will definitely have more sessions such as these in the future. We will keep doing that. Karma, thank you so much for sharing your experience and all that you have learned as an entrepreneur with our fellows. Today is just the third day of our fellowship, and we are struggling because it's a hybrid model we are following because of COVID-19. Like I said earlier, we have about 18 to 19 students here and some on Zoom. We will hopefully, if COVID permitting, we can have Karma maybe and Sanjeeb in Ladakh to meet the fellows, I think, right, Mukesh? We can do that. Thank you so much, and we will definitely have more of these sessions. Over to you, Mukesh.
Yeah, thank you very much, Karma and Sanjeeb in absentia, and Jess, because I'll be honest, they came on.
You were on mute. Okay, Mukesh, you're on mute.
No, I think I was on unmute. Can you guys hear me? Can I have a thumbs up? Yeah, so thank you very much, Karma. Thank you, Sanjeeb in absentia. Thank you, Jess, for organizing this, because it was their relationships that helped get Karma and Sanjeeb here. And depending on the interest that fellows show, we'll definitely facilitate more such conversations. So enjoy your lunch. We're going to be back at 3. Srikanth is hosting that session. So I'll just come to say hello, introduce him, hopefully, and then he'll take it forward. And I'm going to be back with you tomorrow morning for effectuation at 12 o'clock. Thank you very much. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.